Let's talk about the Class 12 Physics Practical Exam. For a lot of us, it's kind of terrifying, right? You've got the pressure of getting the experiment right, the fear of the unknown, and then there's the viva. It's a lot. But what if I told you there's a clear path to not just getting through it, but actually acing it? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break down every single part of this exam and turn all that anxiety into some real confidence.
First things first, I want you to focus on one number, this one, 30. That's how many marks are on the line for your practical exam. And let me tell you, that's a huge chunk of your final grade. But the good news, every single one of those marks is totally within your reach.
So, the big question is, how do you lock in those 30 marks? Well, that's exactly what we're here to do. We're going to give you a step-by-step game plan. By the time we're done, you won't just know what's coming, you'll have a solid strategy to master it.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start by understanding what's at stake with the 30-mark challenge. Then we'll dissect the exam itself. After that, we'll get into nailing the experiment, conquering that viva, and we'll wrap it all up with a simple playbook for exam day. Sound good? Let's dive in.
First up, the 30-mark challenge. Now, I want you to reframe how you see this. It's not some massive, scary obstacle. Think of it as a manageable challenge, one with a really clear path to success.
So why do we even have to do these practicals? It's pretty simple, actually. This exam is where all the physics you've been learning in your textbook jumps off the page and comes to life. It's designed to see if you can connect those big ideas, those laws and formulas, to real, hands-on experiments. It's all about seeing physics in action.
Okay, now let's get tactical. To win any challenge, you've got to know the rules of the game. So in this next part, we are going to break down the marking scheme so you know exactly where to focus your energy for the biggest impact.
This table right here, this is your secret weapon. Look at how these 30 marks are split up. You've got a whopping 14 marks. That's almost half your score, coming from the 2 experiments you'll do on the day. That's your #1 priority. Then, all that work you put in throughout the year on your practical record and project, that gets you another 8 marks. And finally, that 5-mark viva, the final hurdle. Knowing this breakdown is absolutely key to planning your prep time. All right, let's get to the heart of it, the experiment itself. And I've got some great news. It doesn't matter what experiment you get, whether it's from Section A or Section B, they all follow a very similar, predictable pattern.
And this is that pattern. This is the universal blueprint. Every single experiment in your lab manual follows this exact flow. You state the aim, list the materials, explain the theory, detail the procedure, record your observations, show your calculations, and then state the results and precautions. If you get this flow down, you can handle any experiment they throw at you. Seriously, this is your key to success.
For example, let's say you get a Section A experiment. You're probably going to see a circuit that looks something like this. Knowing these symbols, for the resistor, voltmeter, ammeter, and knowing how to connect them properly isn't just about drawing a neat diagram. It's about showing the examiner that you genuinely understand how the circuit works. That's a fundamental skill they're definitely looking for.
And of course, things can be tricky. We've all been there, right? For optics experiments in Section B, maybe it's just getting that optical bench perfectly aligned. Or for any reading, it's avoiding that dreaded parallax error. Pro tip, always keep your eye exactly level with the scale. But listen, don't panic. Your lab manual is your best friend here. It has clear, step-by-step guides to help you through these tough spots.
Okay, deep breath. It's time to talk about the part that causes the most stress, the viva. Let's just call it what it is. It's the final boss of the practical exam. But you know what? Like any boss in a game, it has weaknesses, and we're about to figure them out together.
This right here is the most important thing to remember. The viva is not a pop quiz designed to trip you up. It's a conversation. The examiner just wants to see if you truly understand the why behind what you did in the lab. Can you explain the concepts clearly? That's the real test.
So, an examiner might start you off with a really foundational question, something straight from the syllabus, like this one. What is Coulomb's law? They're just checking to see if you have a solid grasp of the core theory.
And the perfect answer isn't a long, memorized paragraph. It's clear, it's concise, just like this. This shows you get the relationship between charge, distance, and force without just reciting the textbook back to them.
Then, they might level up a bit. They could ask a more conceptual question, something that connects the theory to your actual experiment. A question like this tests a much deeper understanding. They want to see if you can justify why you used the instruments you did.
So, how do you beat this final boss? Here's your training guide. First, you have to know the theory behind your experiments inside and out. Know every piece of equipment on your table. But don't just memorize answers. Practice explaining why. Be ready for questions like, what was the biggest source of error here? Or why this instrument? And that last point, confidence, that comes from knowing you've done the prep work. Whew, we've covered a lot of ground. So let's pull all of this together into one final, simple summary. This is your playbook for walking into that lab feeling prepared and in control.
All right, here are the absolute must-remembers. 1. Know where the marks come from so you can focus your energy. 2. Master that universal experiment structure, aim, theory, procedure, the whole thing. 3. Don't just go through the motions, always understand the why. 4. For the Viva, practice explaining things simply and clearly. And finally, never forget that real confidence isn't something you just have. It's something you build, step by step, through good preparation.
And you know, that's really what this is all about. Your theory classes give you the map of the world, but the practical lab, that's where you get to actually explore the territory yourself. It's your chance to test the very principles that run our universe. So after all this, there's really only one question left. Are you ready? Because I think you are. You've got this.